again. Going through those physical motions of every day in camp. That's what I'm going to be keeping my eye on with Travis Frederick, because I'm wondering how hard they're going to let him go, knowing that they have a Joe Looney behind him that can, kind of sub him. And I wonder how much are they really going to put him in the fire in training camp. So that's going to be something that we're interested in. I'm going to be able to see at camp as well as you, Law. So that's something I'm going to keep my eye on. Now, jumping
go ahead
into
and rub it in.
I'm not trying to, big dog Mark. I ain't trying to
rub it in. I know.
I'm just excited.
Our ass is not going to training camp this year. But I tell you what we are going to do, though. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and make sure we finish off the Redskins, because we're going down there with some other Redskin YouTubers on Saturday to spread.
I'm not saying that offense is going to be good, but I think their defense is going to be good. So I think that's going to be a good test for us week 2, especially with our offense, because that defense is going to give us some problems. They got a really good defensive line, and they just added Montez Sweat, I believe, to the fold, and that defensive line was already pretty good. So that's going to be a true test for Dallas, and I'm excited to see how our offense kind of reacts to it. You know what I mean? Then we'll be able to see what the Kellen Moore experiment is going to really look like when you're playing some good defenses early on.
Well, I got to tell you, our defensive line should be looking at chop, because Trent Williams is planning on holding out and doesn't want to play for the Redskins anymore. And you know who his backup is?
Is he from the Giants? Ain't that his backup?
Eric Flowers.
Yes. Trent Williams, please stay on out, because we love some Eric Flowers. He's on our team. He ain't on your team. He is on our team.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing a mega tailgate there with Cowboys Experience and stuff. Last year I had about 150 before I partnered up with Cowboys Experience, but we are going to be going off. We're going to have TVs out in the parking lot. We may have some former players, former cheerleaders there. We're going to have Joe Booth's Wings. I mean, we are going to throw down there at FedEx Field week 2.
Well, I know I'm ready, and I got some peoples out there in D.C., so we'll see what happens with that. But let's go ahead and jump into some top stories as we head right into camp. Obviously, everybody's been talking about Ezekiel Elliott, the potential holdout. Now, I guess he went out of the country, and everybody kind of won't let it go. Will he? Won't he? I know we've all been talked about this on all our pages about the Ezekiel Elliott situation. But what are your thoughts, since we're all right here and right now? I want to hear both of your thoughts on it. I never thought Ezekiel Elliott would hold out right now, because it doesn't behoove him to do it. He would lose. He's not winning by him doing it. But what are your guys' thoughts about Ezekiel Elliott moving forward? Does he get that contract? Do you think, because I've been hearing like a good 4-year deal, right after the option year. What do you think the contract would really look like for Ezekiel Elliott, Mark?
Well, first things first, Zeke don't play anything in preseason. Okay, let's be honest. And Zeke always starts off the season kind of slow. He's got that. If he's not reported by August 6th, he loses that accrued year, which means then Cowboys basically get a 6-year option on him. So it doesn't behoove him to actually hold out. He doesn't really have any leverage. Maybe he'll take an extra day or 2 off. I'm not so worried about that. But the Cowboys will go ahead and lock him in. But for me, people are like, make him play on this year, make him play on next year. For me, you look at it and say this. His contract is basically averaged about $6 million a year. I know people will say, well, he's only getting 3 point something. No, part of his money was the signing bonus and the guaranteed money that he got early, but it averages out to about 6. You look at Todd Gurley, I believe he's 14. What you do is, because the thing with the running backs are, if you go through the over the cap and you look at all the running backs, you see very few of them over 30. In fact, you don't see very many of them over 28. So saying we're going to go ahead and do a 4-year deal after these 2 years are up, you're putting them too far down the road. So what you do is now say, you know what, we're going to give you a raise for this year, next year, we're going to put 2 more years on the contract, okay? Because you're already paying them $9 million next year for the option year, right? Put $5 million on that deal right there. Okay, that's chump change. Okay, same thing here. You put on about another $6 million for this year. That gets them in line with Todd Gurley and add 2 years onto it, and you can put it in there so that way, like you did with D-Law, that you got it out after 3 years. Because when you look at D-Law's, his contract's $105 million, right? But it's really not. All they really did was they added $42 million onto the franchise tag, because they can get away with that with no paying in 3 years. So it's really a $60 million a year, but you're already paying them $20 this year. And so that's the way you got to look at this thing. And you can structure it where, you can end up making this a small hit for this year, still sign Dak, still sign Amari. And it's not a matter of the Cowboys not going to sign these guys. The Cowboys are going to work out these deals to be team friendly as possible and give the player, that recognition of being the highest paid one. Because like you said, D-Law feels good. I got a $105 million contract. No, you really got a $65 million contract.
I feel you. What about you, Law?
Well, I look at it like this: continuity and rapport is everything. My thing is, I don't think I would see like the dogs. You hear the dogs barking. I don't think that
we'll let the dogs out.
I don't think that they're going to be able to confine Ezekiel Elliott of him holding out. I just think that Ezekiel Elliott knows how important it is for the continuity in the report. I think that we've been having 100% activity of all of the players showing up for these even OTAs, voluntary workout, and also the actual, I guess, heading into the training camp. We haven't heard any other news outside of Ezekiel Elliott, quote unquote, supposed to be holding out. I don't think this is going to happen, Cowboy Nation. Ezekiel Elliott knows what he's up against. Ezekiel Elliott wants to be in the Hall of Fame. I know that he makes some horrible decisions, but if you look at it collectively, a part of this and a piece of this is due to the Roger Goodell's investigation a couple of years ago, right? I mean, who else been young and on something a little bit and bumped into somebody and didn't want to show their chest a little bit? Come on, let's be real about it. Mm-hmm. If Ezekiel Elliott played for any other team, he would never been suspended. This Vegas situation would never been brought up. And then on top of that, we'd have been looking at, okay, this guy's a dynamic running back who's been leading the league for the last 3 years opposed to the 2. You see what I'm saying? Or missing one or what have you. So I'm thinking that Ezekiel Elliott will be there in Oxnard and he will be ready to practice and keep that rapport going with all of the other guys.
Right. I agree with that. Let me give a shout out to everybody. There's a lot of names in the box, so I can't give everybody shout outs, but best believe Ron Smith, Joe Chantrina, Dallas Peppers Sr., some names, Ron Smith, you know how we do. And anybody else who jumped in, I'm sorry if I didn't get everybody's name, but trust and believe, I love every one of y'all, and I appreciate everybody jumping in, even staying with us when we had a little bit of a technical difficulty. Jump back in here so you can hear this good Cowboys talk. My opinion is this. I'm kind of listening, leaning to what you were saying, Mark, that it just doesn't make sense to me to let him play 2 more years, and he just turned 24. If you let him play 2 more years, that's 26 years of age. Now, do we forget that when DeMarco Murray, I know he had injury history, and I know that, but one of the reasons why they didn't re-sign DeMarco Murray is because he was 26 years old, and he had injuries, and that's why they weren't going to extend that contract, because as you said, Mark, when they get around 27, 28, their value is pretty much gone. It's gone. That value is gone. And you get 30, you better be a dog, like a Frank Gore type running back to get that contract, for real. Because the general managers and owners, look, when you hit about 26, 27, 28, you're on the downtrend. It's time to draft somebody else. So it makes more sense for the Cowboys, like you said, if they're going to extend him, go ahead and just add on some years now like they did Todd Gurley. And give yourself an out. Add a few years now and then see how it goes in 3 years and then reevaluate it. And if it's not working, you can cut and it's not killing you. That's the smart way to do it. And it's not about, hey, we don't love you. It's about dollars and cents. And that's what this is about, dollars and cents. And so I'm going to jump into another player since we're talking about dollars and cents, who everybody's been talking about, and that's Mr. Dak Prescott. Now, everybody been talking about his money and what he should get. He ain't 30 million, he ain't 20, he ain't this, he ain't that, blah, 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 blah. Well, I'm going to ask you guys one last time, because you've seen the Allen Hurns release. That's $5 more million back in the bank. To me, and I had Patrick Walker from CBS Sports on the show in April, and he said that they were going to get this deal done with Dak Prescott right at the start of training camp or like in the first week. Does this signal that he is getting signed because you've seen Allen Hurns just get released? Is this the signal that one of these guys, especially like a Dak Prescott, is about to get signed? Your thoughts, Law Nation.
Let me ask you this, Big A, James. Do you know when Dak Prescott's birthday is?
I do not. I'm sorry.
That's the $1 million question right there. Monday. I knew Mark would know.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday. Yes. It would be nice. Shout out to Miss Scout and Pro for dropping that information for the nation, man, down to me. She said that his birthday is Monday. Will it be nice if the Cowboys reach into the bottoms of their pockets and say, okay, we make you the highest quarterback paid ever for the Dallas Cowboys? Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice? I know we get a lot of hate mail.
For a lot of people, they're gonna hate that.
They're gonna be hate that.
Hey,
it's
crazy. It's crazy, Law, that when you're talking about that, when he finally signs, watch the nation. Watch the nation. What really happens. You feel me?
They're gonna be all upset, but I'm telling you guys, if you guys can name me 5 more quarterbacks that won more games than Dak Prescott since he started, then I will hush, right? If you can name me 3, if you can name me 2, then I will hush, right? But there's only one. There's only one. And I like the fact that Dak Prescott going into his 4th year, shout out to Mark Holmes with the power of 4. This is going to be a special year for Dak Prescott. And I think that the Cowboys organization knows this. And I think that they're going to reach deep down in their pockets and they're going to go ahead and give him that fat contract. So you don't have to be thinking about this all year long. Right. I think they're going to pay him.
What about you, Mark?
We all know I'm all in with Dak Prescott because for me, it's the year number 4 that you look at most quarterbacks, and people will say, that's bullcrap. But if you look at the sophomore slump, it is a real thing. Quarterbacks sometimes come out as a rookie. Nobody knows anything about them. They play really well. Then the second year, all of a sudden they come back down to earth, which is one of those reasons why I was telling you, I think Pat Mahomes is going to be coming back to earth a little bit. I don't think he's going to have that 50 touchdown, but that's somebody else's problem. 3rd year, he kind of got together as he's got more and more talent. But you had to realize, and people don't realize that losing your tight end, and losing your, Dez Bryant and not having anybody, that changed everything. And then your offensive line was in flux. But you could see once you had that offensive line playing a little bit better, with better coaching. And then when you ended up having, Amari Cooper, all of a sudden his numbers were going great. And what drives me crazy is technically they're right. Technically they're right. My people can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Okay. You sounding good over here.
No sound. Okay, my fans are saying they get no sound from me. Okay. Well, they're gonna. Oh, good to go. Okay. Once they got that together, if you take Dak Prescott's numbers the second half of the season versus the first half, you're talking about 200 yards a game the first half of the season. You're talking about 260 averaging the second half, and you could see where it was getting better and better and better. That 7-1 was real those last 8 games, right? And that's where you have to look at it. If you take that and just multiply it out, all of a sudden you got over a 4,000-yard season. And when you look at, say, Big Ben, because this is what's crazy, because people are like,
don't hurt him with the facts,
Mark. No. But here's the thing.
Bring it.
But Big Ben threw the ball 180 times more than Dak Prescott. 189 times more. That is 11 times more per game. Okay. And so when you look at yards per completion, Dak was only 0.2 of a yard less than Big Ben. And look at the people that he was throwing to. And this is the thing that people won't get you. They'll tell you that Matty Ice is so much better. Well, he's throwing to Julio Jones, Mohamed Sanu, and Calvin Ridley.
Right.
If you put the guys we had with Matty Ice, how do you think he would have done last year?
Exactly. I mean, let's put Deontay Thompson and Noah Brown and those guys, and let's see if you throw for 4,500 yards.
Okay,
you're not going to.
If you look at
before you expound on that point, Mark, can you hurt the Eagles fans right quick with the facts? What you told us off camera about the Carr brother? I just want to hear this again live.
Bring it up.
I want to hear it live. I just want to hear.
Actually, they're still They're still in denial because their quarterback was 96 yesterday in the top 100 because they thought for sure he was going to be in the top 10. Okay, and I know they won't put Dak Prescott in it. I get that, but here's the thing: had he not gotten hurt, they would not have made the playoffs last year. They were 5-6 with Carson Wentz leading the team. And the 5 wins, 2 against the Giants, and who didn't beat them because they were the slump buster, right? The Redskins.
I think it took a kick for them to win one of those Giants games. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
The Redskins, the Jaguars, and they beat the Colts in the first half of the season when they were 2-6, and they even gave up 45 points to the Jets. Okay? That's the 5 wins that Carson Wentz had. And they don't seem to understand that they lost to the Cowboys twice. But yet they'll go ahead and tell you that, our secondary was banged up. Well, our offensive line, Tyron Smith and Lyle Collins was the only two starters. Tyrod was just coming back from injury. So don't give me that crap.
And we didn't have Zeke in 2017 when we played you the first time.
But they don't count that, though.
Yeah, they won't count
They'll
that.
tell you, Carson Wentz had a bad back going into that game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, come on. You know what? It's like, come on, man. So, y'all making excuses and things. Because you know what? Here's the thing. I'm a grown-ass man. And win, lose, or draw, I'm going to tell it like it is, and I'm going to be here every day. If my team stunk, I'm going to tell you my team stunk. And if they did good, I'm going to tell you they did good. But, these Eagle fans, they go come up with all kinds of excuses. And we're Super Bowl champion. Okay, fine. You finally got one. Now shut the hell up. Win another one. Okay? But with that, here's the thing with quarterbacks. If you look at Russell Wilson's numbers every year, his first 3 years were, about the same as Dak, but lower. But that fourth year was like the explosion. Now, here's the thing that Cowboy fans don't seem to understand it, because it was funny because they had the Cowboys-Eagles game on last night, week 14.
Wow.
And I remember it being going into overtime, and the time of possession, the Dallas Cowboys had the ball for 40 minutes versus 20 minutes. Which is, 2-1. That's freaking incredible. And the way this offense is designed to keep the ball away from the other team. Because if you can keep the ball away from the other team, that's less opportunity for them to go down the field. That means you're going to keep them from getting the ball and being able to have Aaron Rodgers go down the field and score on you. It's by design. It's not going to be a fantasy football team that is lighting it up, going 50, 60 yards all the time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But they keep saying because they compare it to fantasy football. Well, Big Ben's got 5,000 yards. Well, Big Ben sat his ass home during the playoffs, didn't he?
Had front row seats.
Didn't Aaron Rodgers sit his ass home?
Yeah.
Didn't Matty Ice sit his ass home?
Yeah.
Okay.
True.
Dak Prescott, he won a game.
Yeah.
And
deep facts.
Had we stopped them on third down, I think we would have won that game too against the Raiders. And that's all I have to say about that.
Man, people going to hate those facts, man. Boy, they going to hate them.
Well, all I got to say is this, the proof is in the pudding. People always act like, well, Dak's record is on like this because of this and because of that. Well, here's the thing, folks. It's a team game, and you can't win without an offensive line. You don't have an offensive line, you're not winning no games, okay? You're not winning. So people need to understand that. That's why the Cowboys – I think they're the number one team that has most of their money in the offensive line more than any other team, like by far. So that's telling you right there. They heavily invested in the offensive line for one reason. We want to control the clock, and we want to protect our quarterback, and that's why they did it. So you can see where they started from. And it's not, okay, you can sit there and say, oh, well, Dak didn't do all that. Well, like you said, Aaron Rodgers and those guys – they have weapons too. Like would it been he had Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell and he had all them. What was the tall receiver? Was kept on smoking weed. Martavius Bryant, and then you had Juju Schuster. You guys got all-world players, and then you wonder why they putting up all-world stats. You got dogs with you. We had Deontay Thompson. We had Terrence Williams. Dog, we had Jason. You feel me? An old Jason Witten.
Shout out to Allen Hurns.
And I'm not hating on our players. I'm not hating on those guys.
Right.
They weren't the all-stars that those other guys had. So what do you expect when you get have a quarterback who don't really have the weapons? When Dallas got the weapons, they said, hey, we need to get Dak Prescott some weapons. They pulled the trigger on Amari Cooper. You've seen what happened. So that, to me, shows you that Dak is a quarterback, because even if you was a bad quarterback and you got a good receiver, you're still not completing passes to him. We've seen in the NFL that even if you got good receivers and you're not a good quarterback, you're still not going to complete them passes to him. You got to be able to throw the ball. Is that not true? You can have a great running back, a great receiver, but if you can't throw, Tim Tebow, even though you won them games, you still only completed 47% of your passes. You feel me? And they still got rid of you. So as much as you got them to the playoffs, Tim Tebow, they still got rid of you because they didn't think you could throw the ball. For real, that's what it comes down to. And Dak Prescott has shown, if you look at he can't throw this and throw that. Well, why is his accuracy or his completion percentages staying at a career 67%? That's what I don't understand. When that's one of the barometers of a quarterback. That's what you want. And when you're talking about the league average at what your yards per average or per completion, Dak has been at like 7, and that's where most of the quarterbacks are at. 7, and the high ones are 8 when you got Mahomes throwing 50 touchdowns. But everybody ain't doing that. So if you look at quarterbacks across the board, Dak is as good, if not better than a lot of these guys. So please love your quarterback and let's try to get this 6, y'all.
Let's try to get this. And look, another thing that a lot of people always say is law. Where they going to get the money from? Look,
man,
Jerry Jones been talking about this collective bargain agreement. He's already pushing for 18 weeks, right? Now, it just came out with a poll, I think day before yesterday, that Jerry Jones have the richest organization in all of sports, right?
Oh yeah.
What kind of stupidity of the league would be? How stupid would the league would be not to listen to Jerry? They want to make money, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Look, push this thing to 18 weeks or what have you. Take away some of those preseason games. The salary cap been increasing anywhere from 10 to 15% when it was 16 weeks. You can only imagine, you can count the money. When it's 18, you can do the quick math. That's anywhere from 20 to 25% if you move it up to extra 2 games. There's your money. 33 to 34, 35, or $36 million is cheap from 2 years from now. So we're going to have the money. So don't worry about the money, Cowboy Nation. It's going to be there.
Well, here's the thing that you really want to look at, though, is if the Cowboys are smart, they want to do the Tyron Smith type of a deal, where it's stretching out as long as possible. Because here's the thing. Right now, you look at Kirk Cousins' contract and say, you know what, that ain't so bad. You look at the Jimmy Garoppolo deal. You look at Andrew Luck's, and those were just a couple of years ago. And so what you're going to see happen is you're going to, like you said, the cap is going to blow up. And not only just because if they do get that 18-game schedule, I think that's not going to happen. I think that's the blow that the NFL is trying to reach for. And, what they're really trying to get is some stuff down here. But if you start thinking about the casino money and the gambling money that's going to be coming in, you're going to be looking at somebody who's in the internet who's going to end up being one of those players then that's going to be getting, say, the Thursday night practice packages as well. So you're going to see this cap just blow the hell up after this collective bargaining agreement. And if you go ahead, and this is where people say, I am crazy, but I said, if you sign Dak to a $175 million contract over 6 years, and like you did with DeMarcus Lawrence, where you got it out in 3 or 4 years, 2 years from now, that's going to be chump change.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because you got Pat Mahomes is going to need to get paid. You got Jared Goff out there to get paid. You've got, some of the veterans out there, they're going to get paid. And ain't nobody going below 30 anymore.
Right. It's going to be in the past.
Right. I mean, I don't know why people trip off that, because just like you said, remember when they were tripping off Cam Newton? Cam Newton, one of the highest paid quarterbacks, and he ain't better than Aaron Rodgers. He ain't better than Drew Brees. He ain't better than this and that. And guess what? It took only 2 years, and he went from like one of the top ones to like 15th or 16th. So now you look at a Cam Newton contract, and you're like, oh, we living good with Cam Newton. We're living good with that contract. You feel me?
Yeah. But think about this, though. You had Andrew Luck was the highest paid recently. You had Jimmy Garoppolo. You had Kirk Cousins. You ended up having Matty Ice, and then Aaron Rodgers, and then Russell Wilson. So it's not. You only carried it for just a second. It's just like it's bragging rights that eventually that you say, I was the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
For 5
when you're
minutes.
Retired, sitting around the bike, it may have been, but I was the highest paid one. So it's kind of like this badge of honor that you can carry the candle with and stuff. So what you do is, like I said, sign Dak to a 6-year, $35 million contract so he can have that badge. But guess what? It's gonna be beat. It's just the cost of doing business. And I know people will lose their freaking minds, and every time there's an incomplete pass, they're going to say, that's what we get for $35 million. But you know what? You're never going to make it. Some of these people, it doesn't matter what you do, okay? Because, they had everybody say, Dak is not the guy. He's going to be pumping gas in 2 years. He can't do this. He has to have a team around you. We get him going to playoffs. We win a playoff game and everything else. And it's still, he still sucks. So it's like, you know what? I'm just done. I can't convince you. We can win the Super Bowl, and you're going to still say it wasn't Dak. So it's just
right. We get so much hate mail about Dak Prescott not throwing for 30 touchdowns and not passing for over 4,000 yards. We get so much of a hate mail for that. But I'm telling people they discount the rushing touchdown like it don't exist. He have 18 total rushing touchdowns. Quick math, that'll give you 108 points. Take away those 108 points, we might not win some of those games. Cowboy Nation, like Nietzsche said, don't spoil what you have by desiring the things that you don't have. But remember, the thing that you do have was something that you dream for and long for. I'm going to say that till I'm dead in this earth. Look, I'm telling you guys, don't forget about 2015. just don't forget about that. Dak Prescott is something special.
Yeah.
Because
amen on that one.
yeah.
And he stays healthy.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's knock on wood on that one, because I definitely you better knock on hardwood on that, because I don't need no injuries. And that's going to prelude into our next subject. Let me give a shout out to everybody jumping in. Gambino, what's up with you? Gerald Fair, Ron Smith, what's up with you? How you doing? Dustin Alexander. I got a Cindy Henson Law, and she love you. She loves some law. She been saying it. She been saying she loves some law. So you have to give her a shout out. Give Cindy Henson a shout out. She said, "Oh, she want a shout out from Mr. Law." There you go.
Appreciate you.
I got a good segue, since we were talking about, please, Dak Prescott don't get hurt. So we're going to talk about the backup quarterback situation, because that's been a hot and heavy subject, because some people are saying they don't think the Cowboys backup quarterback is on the roster. Me personally, I don't trust no Cooper Rush. I don't really want him on the roster. I'm not hating on him, but I just don't want him on the roster. I have always liked Mike White since he was drafted. Do I think he's ready? I don't think so. I have to see him in camp, but I still don't feel like he's ready. So I still feel like we need a veteran, in my eyes, a cheap one. I don't know who we go out there and get, to kind of flow with the offense. But in your eyes, Law and Mark, who do you think the backup quarterback is on the roster, or do you think we're going to have to go outside of the box and go ahead and grab a veteran right quick for like this year? You first, Law.
I got my money on Matt White. I'll push all the chips and the coins in the center of the table and say, "Come on, Matt. I know you got it, Mike." I meant to say, Mike White, I know you got it, man. It's just that you got to just stop thinking about it. Just play freely and don't worry about the consequences and repercussion. If Mike White is going to be the starter, what have you, if Dak Prescott goes down, Jerry Jones is going to be on the phone immediately anyway. He's going to be calling somebody. I'm for real.
As soon as he falls down and holds the ankle, he's calling.
He's on that phone, and I'm not going to say who he's going to call, but he's going to call one of those veteran quarterbacks to come back and see if they can pick up this offense to help us out. As long as it's not Matt Castle, I don't mind who you give a call.
That's a bad word. Don't you bring up that name no more.
Matt Castle. Mark, man, take it over, man. I know you got
it. Here's the reality, man. There are so few good starting quarterbacks that any backup quarterback, if he's any good, is going to be a starting quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been that route with, we had, Brandon Whedon, and then of course we had Matt Castle. Here's the reality. If Dak goes down, the season's done. There isn't anybody out there there isn't anybody out there that you can say is going to be capable of taking the team. Okay. Unless we're fortunate that he's just out for a game or two. I'm sorry. You might as well go with the young guys, save the money, and put the money and make sure you got that offensive line secured. Make sure that you got the running backs in situation secure. Because who do you honestly look out there and say they're a good quarterback that you're gonna get cheap?
And can really flow.
None.
It's going to really flow with this offense. Feel me? Like you'd have to bring somebody in who's off the streets. That's just, it's just a makings for a disaster in my eyes. And people who are always saying Dak can't do this and Dak can't do that, you would start seeing the true importance of a Dak Prescott when everybody said, well, and we know Ezekiel Elliott. We know we know how much of a dog he is. But if he don't have a quarterback, they're going to stack that line. And I don't care how good of an offensive line you got. They're going to come after him, and they're going to put their ears back and say, guess what? You ain't got nobody can throw the ball. So we putting 7, 8 men in this box, and we're going to dare you to throw it. Because remember, folks, when Tony Romo went down, did you see them defense start coming after us? Did you see that defense coming after us every play?
Well, here's the thing,
no respect for nothing.
But here's the thing that's a misnomer about that season. We still had a great offensive line, and we still were 4th in the league in running football. We ran the ball as effectively that year as we did last year. We were only 10th in the league last year running the football. People don't seem to understand it. Teams like, believe it or not, New England ran the ball, got more yardage on the ground than the Dallas Cowboys. And this is where people are uneducated fans. They don't know what's actually going on. And another thing that ended up happening, believe it or not, is with Amari Cooper, Zeke Elliott's game average actually dropped about 11 yards per game. And of course, our passing game. So you're watching our offense kind of transition a little bit. And I think with Kellen Moore, you're going to see a lot more passing because he's got some studs. He's got some guys that can go out and make some plays. And if he is wise enough to be able to do different things from different sets where you don't know if it's going to be a pass or a run, and you've got, let's say it's, I always say 12. Every time I say 12 formation, everybody jumps on my back. But here's the thing. You could set up with 2 tight ends and have Randall Cobb and Amari Cooper on there. And if the safety's in the box, you can have those guys go deep and have your tight ends doing crossing routes and turn it into a pass play. If they don't put the safety in the box, then you got 2 extra blockers in that offensive line, and you're just going to, bullnose it right down the field. So it gives you a lot more things that you can do now that you got those people. You follow me?
I follow you. And just one little spinoff on that 2015 season. People need to understand, I went back and looked at our record, and I remember watching those games. There was only 3 games we got blown out. It was the Eagles, and the Patriots. We lost to them in the second half because we were playing them good in the first half. The Eagles blew us out, and the Redskins, that was the last game of the year when they beat us. But even then, we weren't mathematically eliminated to the playoffs until almost like week 14, and we still had a terrible record. Like, we were still in the hunt. And all those games that we were playing, we were in all those games or had the lead with Matt Castle and Brandon Weeden. Those teams, remember that 2014 season, 2015? I mean, the Seattle Seahawks, they were dogs of a team. They only beat us 10-9 in the last minute. They had a last-second drive that beat us. There was a lot of teams that beat us in the last seconds, even with that 2015 season. So people need to understand that before they get jumping up and crazy. And just like you said, Mark, Darren McFadden came right out of nowhere, and everybody said he was hot waste garbage, and why did you even sign him? And he dang near got almost 1,100 yards rushing.
And didn't start the whole season. He only started
He didn't start till like week 6 or something like that. For real? So the Cowboys knew what they were doing by getting that offensive line. So since we're still talking on offense, because we're about to close here, appreciate everybody jumping. Let me give a few more shout outs right quick before we jump into these last. Brian Nelson, what's up with you? Jake McLemore, Dustin Alexander, Colonel Bill Quinn? If that is, salutes to you. If that's a Colonel for real. Tavarius Peel, what's up with you? He said, hey, we can always have Kellen Moore as emergency backup.
Player coach, huh?
Yeah.
Player coach all day. Nancy Cooper, we appreciate you giving us the good shout outs. But since we're talking about offense, Kellen Moore is the big subject because everybody wants to see what this offense is going to look like. Do you think we're going to see any wrinkles in this training camp, or you think it's all going to be kind of close to the vest, or you think we're going to see anything new? Because the thing that Kellen Moore has been saying that we're not really going to change up a lot of things, but we're just going to have a lot of different formations and not make it look predictable. When we come to the line of scrimmage, we don't want you knowing what we're doing. So we're going to have a lot of formations, a lot of motion, things of that nature. You're going to probably see, I would love to see a Tony Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield. I'd like to see a Tony Pollard spread out, and then you got Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield and maybe another running back or whoever you're trying to do. I want to see just some things where we don't look predictable. What do you think about Kellen Moore going forward? Do you really think, and I know we haven't seen anything, okay? I'm not asking that, but do you have a good feeling going into this season about Kellen Moore and the future of this offense? I'm going to go with you, Mark.
All right. I'm not going to be privileged enough to go to training camp this year, okay? But I need you guys to make sure you don't do one thing, okay? Don't get too much live feed out there of what's going on, because they're going to be watching everything because they're trying to get a book out on Kellen Moore, okay? And the fact that he is not Scott Linehan, where we have been basically doing the same thing since 2014 and 2015. That is an unknown in a quantity that's going to be good. The fact that I heard that we ended up having 4 wideouts in the red zone, for me, all of a sudden makes you think, oh, my God, we're going to try something different. Our team was so predictable that it was always run Zeke up the middle on first down, okay? Everybody knew. I could call the plays from my living room, 1,500 miles away.
Exactly.
If they change up, and they don't have to do a whole lot, a few pre-snap motions, a couple of different formations and things, you've got a lot of talent, but you just need to be able to have a little bit of an edge some of the time. And if we can be a little bit better in the red zone and a little more creative, I think that we're going to be in great shape.
Yes, indeed. I'm looking at what you're saying is that football always been the same regardless. 11 versus 11. I don't think that you can change much of that. But like you said, the predictability, I think that you can move some of that stuff out. Instead of 12 personnel, maybe you can go with more of a 22 personnel with the two running backs in the backfield and do 21s and stuff like that and beyond. So I'm looking at this team. I'm looking at what Kellen Moore will bring in is a little spice, as well as he's not going to be that hard-nosed, stuck-up guy. Remember? Scott Linehan was that guy was like, hey, you don't go against my rulings, you know. Alan Hearns, within his first 3 weeks here or what have you, he spoke out against Scott Linehan, and you saw what happened to him. Didn't play no more. And then Amari Cooper, for all crying out loud, he said, reduced. yeah, I changed the play. Yeah, I did it. Yeah, I told Dak to do it, you know.
Right.
And then you saw the reduction in catches.
The only person that can lock down Amari Cooper, he was holding the clipboard. I call him Scott Linehan, right? And my thing is, the major thing, and if you guys can catch the Rich Eisen show, I think my guy, Michael Irvin, man, the passionate speaker that he is, he was interviewing Ezekiel Elliott, and he said, what do Kellen Moore brings to the table? And Ezekiel Elliott, he sat there and paused, and he said, you know what? Kellen Moore will listen. He will listen. And that's a major thing. That's a major skill set for any offensive coordinator or any coach and beyond is to listen, because they got the feel, they got the vision, they see things that's going on that you just don't understand, right? So I believe that just by Kellen Moore listening to those younger guys that's out there on the field, I think that we're going to see some major improvements, you know. So I'm not trying to be all high on this team as it relates to Kellen Moore. He's going to put up 40 and 50 points. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that the adjustment's going to be there, and this team is going to look a whole lot sharper because he listened.
I totally agree with you with that. The biggest thing to me, just like you said, that he listens, is that I think also that he came up with Dak Prescott. And so they're familiar with each other. I feel like they have a bond. And I believe them getting John Kitten as the quarterback's coach, moving Kellen Moore to the OC. I don't feel like Kellen Moore was a good quarterback's coach. That's just in my opinion, because I feel like you got to have a little bit more not saying he don't got a backbone. Nope, so I'm not saying he don't have a backbone, but he just seems a little more cerebral, like a guy that's not going to really yell at you. Whereas a guy like John Kitten is going to get in your face. And I think that's what that kind of needs on that quarterback coach side. But with the OC side, he needs a guy who can sit down in that quarterback room and say, hey, Dak, what do you like right here? What kind of plays do you like, and what kind of things can we do to make you better? I wasn't around, but it just seemed like Scott Linehan didn't do that. He said, this is what you're going to run, and we're going to run it until I say stop. And that's what and if you don't like it, you don't got to play here. That's what it felt like that he was. That's the feeling that I was getting, that he was saying to our players, like, either you do what I say or you don't play.
Big Game James. He like, this is the play that Randy Moss did. You'd be like, wait a minute, I'm not Randy Moss. This is the play that Megatron did. You'd be like, wait a minute, hold on, coach. I'm Alan Hearns. Oh, my bad. I ain't trying. Let me see if I can use another person. Coach, I'm Cole Beasley. I can't run that Randy Moss play.
Beasley.
Exactly. Beasley.
So yeah, you're right, Big Game James, man. That doggone Scott Linehan, man. And trust me, I've been saying it since day one. He's not the worst coach in the land, but he just don't, listen to his players, basically.
And that's what you have to have to me as any kind of leader. You have to be able to listen. And when you can hear what the players are seeing, hey, coach, I see this. Okay, let's try to run this play after that. You know what that does to that player? That makes that player play harder for you. He plays harder for you because he knows, you know what? He listens, and I feel like he cares. And players aren't robots. You feel me? Players ain't robots. They have feelings. They have emotions. And if you treat that player with some kind of respect, and I don't know if that was happening, it feels like the player will come back and play harder for you. I feel like that's the reason why Jason Garrett is still there as well, is because the players do respect him. They do continue to play hard. I mean, as much as our fans have gotten mad at him, the players have really never quit on Garrett. I mean, he may have a 2-game losing streak, but he always seems to bounce back because the players never seem to quit on him. And I think that's something with him being some type of a player's coach and them having respect. So I think Kellen Moore is coming into it where, hey, we're going to give you a clean slate and a chance because you know what? We like how you listen and we feel like you're going to make this offense better because you're going to make it kind of cater to our strengths. And that's what I think he's really going to do with Dak Prescott as well. All right, y'all. So one last thing I want to ask you guys before we head up out of here, and I want to ask you about some battles, training camp battles. You know, 2 things. It's a twofold question, and then we'll head up off here. First, what player are you most excited kind of to see in camp? And what battle are you kind of really excited to see? No matter what position, what battles are you kind of really excited to see coming up in this training camp? You first, Law.
Oh, man, I got my guy, Cedric Wilson Jr. That's the battle that I want to see. A lot of people, we talked about the John Vaya Johnsons. We talked about the Guyton kid. But somewhere on this map, I got this battle for this guy named Cedric Wilson. He wears number 16, if you know what I mean. So, guys, look out for him. And then on top of that, on the defensive side of the ball, you already know what I'm about to say. You guys know I love defense, right?
Don't take my guy. Come on, man. You know I'm defensive line. Don't
Tell
take
him
my
that
guy.
is human nature.
Oh, all right. You take the D back.
I got Michael Jackson, man. I got Michael Jackson, number 33. I want to see that battle. I just want to see this kid. Look, he could have went, first and second round if he had all of his affairs in order. You know what I'm saying? Right. But, guys, do not sleep on number 33. I would like to see that battle. It's a long shot for him. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong about it, because I'm not saying that he won't be able to make this team, but I'm just saying that camp battle, when you guys finally see the physical nature that kid plays with, right? And then I'm going to tell you guys, he can blitz off the edge. He got the short and intermediate speeds as well. He got some good recovery speed. Guys, look out for number 33. Boy. That Michael Jackson, boy, he's going to be moonwalking on a lot of people. And my third person, I know you just said only 2, but my third person, Donovan Wilson. Did you get a chance to see him up big game?
He looked good on that tape. And they were saying he was a heavy-footed kind of safety, and one of his kind of negatives was that he was heavy-footed and did have the closing speed. But, man, he was looking good in that workout. And you know what? In minicamp, the coach was saying he was catching on quick. He was calling in the cadences. He was putting the guys in the right lineups, and they were really looking at that like,
a thumper. His only flaw was coming out of college that he over pursuit. He's too aggressive. I love that. Give me that too aggressive guy. Chris Shaw said, look, I can work with the over aggressive guy. Give me him. I can work with him. So I'm crunk about Donovan Wilson. I'm crunk about Michael Jackson. And you guys know. Yes, and I'm crunk about Cedric Wilson. Shout out to Cedric, man. Shout out to him.
What's up with you? That's some good ones. What's up with you, Mr. Mark?
Okay, I got to give a shout out to Bosh Lombardi in here because he's needing some attention. Bosh, we love you, man. We love you, man. And, Bosh, of course, is Mr. Offensive Line, but see, I am a defensive line guy.
Wow.
And I can't wait to see the battle royale that's going to take place on that defensive line. Because you guys don't seem to understand that we got too many guys. We got the perfect situation that we have guys that are going to be starting on other teams. And I want to see Tristan Hill with that hair on fire, that future Warren Sapp. To me, that's when I see him.
Big praise.
You putting that kid on a high pedestal.
But I'm telling you, he's got that kind of size, that kind of motor in there. But see, I also want to see the Christian Covingtons who had that 4.5 sacks last year. And see, I know people out there are saying, 4.5 sacks, that's nothing. But you got to understand, when you are down in the trenches, down there going against the centers and the guards and stuff, your job is to occupy space. And that guy occupies a whole lot of space. But I want to see the Malik Collins there who's looking for a paycheck, knowing that he has been having injury history and stuff out there. I want to see Tyrone Crawford, who is still pissed off about that whole thing that happened down in Florida and stuff and trying to hold on for his job. You know what I'm saying? I want to see Robert Quinn out there trying to resurrect his career and get that paycheck. Okay? I want to see all of these guys because not all of these guys will be able to be standing. We got too many. And so you're going to see some major camp battles there on that defensive line to make this team. That's what I want to see.
Well,
we'll be there.
I mean, I'm going to bounce off of that because, I let y'all go first, and I knew y'all was going to take what I wanted to talk about, but that's okay. That's all right because I'm not an offensive lineman neither. I'm a slim guy, so ain't nobody playing on the offensive line, so I ain't talking about offensive line because I ain't talking about that. But I feel you. The biggest thing to me, the battle, just like you said, Mark, just to me, is that defensive line. We went from, how long have we been crying for we went from almost 2 years ago where we didn't have nobody. Well, we were getting hyped over Charles Tapper. We were getting hyped over Charles Tapper and stuff. You get what I'm saying? Now you got, like you said, you got guys you're like, I don't want to cut him. He's good. I don't want to lose him. Right. But man, I want to see Robert Quinn. I prayed for him. I don't know about y'all. I'm the one that brought Robert Quinn over here to the Cowboys. Nobody else. I brought him over here because I was talking about Robert Quinn 5 months, 6 months before anybody even sniffed Robert Quinn. So it was me. So thank me for talking to God, the football God, and say bring Robert Quinn because they signed him right after that. But I want to see Robert Quinn and Tyron Smith. I want to see that battle because you know what they're saying. Robert Quinn, he might not be that player any longer. He might not be this, not be that. So he's got something to prove, and he's on a 1-year deal if I'm not correct. So he wants another contract. So you're talking about a Randall Cobb, and you're talking about these guys that have Christian Covington have those 1-year deals. They're going to give you all out because they want another contract. So I think we're going to get the best from Robert Quinn, and that's why I'm excited for the 1-2 punch. And then, as you said before, Joe Jackson, nobody's even talking about him. He's a good player. He might not even be on the team. You feel me? Mm-hmm. And then you got Antoine Woods, like you said. Malik Collins is in his contract year. Pretty much everybody on the defensive line is in contract year. I mean, Daniel Ross was a good player for us last year. He may not even make the team. You feel me? And you got Dorrance Armstrong Jr., Taco Charlton, just like you said, Tyrone Crawford. And the guy that I said that people need to keep their eye on is Jalen Jelks. I wrote an article about him and said that's the draft pick nobody's talking about. The dude's got perfect size, 6'5", 256 pounds, and he's built like a Jason Taylor. So if you can harness that talent, if you watch this tape, the dude's got a motor out of this world. You could possibly stand him up and maybe transition him as to maybe a weak side linebacker in that 4-3 and put him next year coming in for Sean Lee because Sean Lee ain't going to be with us too much longer. So that's what I'm saying. You can be prepping guys for next year as well. So that defensive line is going to be interesting because there's going to be some cuts that are going to be a surprise. That is a guarantee in my eyes. There's going to be some surprise cuts on that defensive line. You're going to be, what? He got cut. So that's one of the biggest battles I'm interested to see. And my second battle would be, to me, is the receiving core, not after the 3, but I really want to see what these rookies are looking like. I want to see what Noah Brown does. He was injured, getting ready to go into camp. Are you going to step up Noah Brown? My dark horse is Jalen Guyton because he has that speed and size. John Vay Johnson, they're talking about all-world speed, and, man, it's looking crazy. So I'm really interested to see if one of those guys can really step up and give us that deep threat that we haven't had. Michael Gallup is a deep threat to me, but because he's always getting open deep. But I'm talking about that speedster where Dak can just let it rip and just throw it up in the air and just let this guy run up under it and blow everybody away. That's what I'm looking for because we haven't had team speed in a very long time. Remember, 10 had been 10 straight years where Cowboys had not drafted a receiver under 4.5. So now we finally have some speed, and so now it's exciting. And one last player before I jump off and say anything else is Tony Pollard. That is my
one. There you go.
Everybody been talking about it. I've been talking. See the dogs.
He made the dogs come out.
Dogs about Tony Pollard. So I mean, Tony Pollard, dogs went crazy. So that's Tony Pollard gonna do some daggone things this year. Because think about it, folks. We can slide him out receiver. We can put him at the backfield. He can play so many things. And last big thing, that was Kellen Moore's pet cat. That was Kellen Moore's pick. They asked Kellen Moore. Kellen Moore got on the phone with Tony Pollard. So I believe that was Kellen Moore. So I believe since it was a Kellen Moore pick, we're going to see a whole lot of Tony Pollard this year. And Laura, just keep him healthy. If he's healthy, he is going to be something special, I believe, with the Dallas Cowboys. That's just my opinion on Pollard.
Well, we're going to turn them dogs into some wolves over here, baby. Yeah.
Yes. Hey, without that further ado, Make sure, and like I said, we're about to sign off here, but please, Media Row, this is not going to be the first and only show that we're going to do. We're going to be doing this more. Like I said, this was kind of a little test run we did on the Cowboys Experience. So please, if there was any glitches or anything that was going on with the show, please forgive us. We're in trial run, but we're going to make this hot and get it rolling. So continue to support Silver Blue Nation, Cowboys Experience, Law Nation, Mark Holmes. Continue to support and go out and just support it, because without y'all, we can't do this. So before we get off, I want to give you guys another opportunity to give your background and where they can find you. And then from there, we'll get ready for training camp. You first, Mark, since you're right next to me. Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go to you, Law. Where can they find you?
Guys, I got a Facebook page, LAWS Nation. Follow me there, as well as YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter, and Twitch, and Periscope, and MySpace, and Black Planet at Laws Nation. Find me, guys. Telling you, I'm there. I'm putting on all YouTubes. I got 2 channels. Just follow me, man. Just hit me up, and on my Instagram. Yeah, Mark. See if you can unmute yourself, man, because they need to hear you and know where they can find you and follow you.
Yeah, I think it's working up yourself. But hey, I'm gonna be a witness that Law Nation does have 37 pages. I am a witness.
Hey, iTunes, Google.
He got apps I never even heard of before. I'm like, what kind of app is that? And you on that too? My God, this man hustles like no other. Are you back?
Marathon continues, baby. Marathon continue.
I think you got to unmute, Mark.
There they go. They said they still.
I didn't know. I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't mute myself. Now, the dogs are kind of going crazy and stuff, okay? I think my wife just send them down after. But no, listen, I'm a diehard Dallas Cowboy fan. I have seen it all. I have seen every one of the Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl. So I was a fan before they ever won the Super Bowl. So anybody that says I'm a bandwagon fan, you can go ahead and read between the lines on this one, okay? Read between the lines. I live the Dallas Cowboys every single day, from the time I wake up in the morning with Don't Sleep on the Dallas Cowboys to a fireside chat at the end of the night. So you can find me at Joe Boo Sports Report, Mark Holmes on YouTube. Or if you just go ahead and Google Cowboy Joe Boo, like from Major League, you'll find me on Google. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it back on over to you, Big Game James.
All right. Well, we appreciate you, Mark. I appreciate you, Law, for both taking the time out of your schedule to jump on here for us to do this. Like I said, we're going to do this more, and I'm excited to see what we're going to do beyond this. But please, if you're trying to get the Cowboys experience, because we've experienced it like no other. You saw Law on ESPN with Barry, and Barry, man, is second to none, man. What he does for everybody out here, the guy is love, and he showed nothing but love from me, producer G, Mark. I mean, me and Mark met. We actually had never talked before. We went down to the Cowboys Experience, that Philly game, and it was an experience like other, man. It was great, and we got to be right there and get all that atmosphere and goodness. And I'm telling you, I hadn't been to Cowboys games like that before, but I'd always been a deep Cowboys fan. But when you get to the game and then you can get to that field, because we got field passes for you, it changes your whole outlook on the game when you can actually see those players. See, when you're watching TV, it's like it's good. But when you can see the interaction, when you're right behind the bench and you see Dak Prescott interacting with the receivers and the running backs, you see him coming off the field and talking to each other, it changes your mind and your thoughts and perceptions of what you think about the players, because then you actually see it. So if you want to get some of that goodness, please get in the Cowboys Experience inbox. Go like and subscribe to the page, because I'm telling you, it's an experience like no other. Can I get a witness on that, folks?
Yes,
amen to that.
Amen. Hey, before you close it all together.
Yes, sir.
Man, I gotta say this, and he's part of the Cowboys Experience. He's the original, and you know what I'm talking about. Not one of these carbon copies. I'm talking about the original 88. Original 88. Hey, let's help this guy get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He needs,
because he got another chance.
Yeah,
he
got a hell of a chance. So, guys, to do me a huge favor, for anybody that's watching this show and anybody that's on all our platforms, just tweet to the NFL Hall of Fame and say, this guy, the original 88, belongs there, and it's been past due. Guys, get him in there. Let's go, Cowboy Nation. Let's go.
Amen.
Yes, and we can do that. And And not just was he a great player, he's a great man. I mean, I've met him. He was like one of my idols growing up, and then when I finally met him, I can't lie, I was just sitting there like, that's Drew Pearson. I
Right.
usually, like, I don't be getting geeked, like, we're in media and stuff like that. But when you were watching him as a kid, when I watched him as a kid, and then I finally got to stand right next to him, I'm like, dude, I was watching you, loving you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Man, the dude is great. So please, let's vote and get him in because he deserves it. Okay?
Amen.
All right. So without that further ado, Silver and Blue Nation, Big Game James, Law Nation, Mark Holmes, the Cowboys Experience, producer G Voltron. We love y'all. We're signing off. And until next week, we will see you soon. Salutes.
Salutes.